GOP lawmakers are threatening a government shutdown unless Biden and the Senate Democrats agree to secure the southern border. This comes as a funding bill for the border was delayed, with GOP lawmakers fed up with the migrant surge hitting record highs. One of those lawmakers joins us now. He's Texas Representative Chip Roy. Congressman, great to have you on the show this morning. Let's talk about this showdown. First of all, it's House versus Senate in a way. The Senate seems to want to wrap up any type of border security in a much larger package. You guys want to advance H.R. 2 and directly address what's happening at our southern border. Is it going to come down to a government shutdown?
Well, good morning. Well, good to be on. You grew up in Texas, Sherman, if I have it correct. And so you understand what we're facing down in Texas in terms of the impact on our communities. I had 6 kids who died from fentanyl poisoning in Hays County, just southwest of Austin, Texas, last year alone. We're sick of it. We're fed up. The Biden administration, they're going to court to sue to try to stop Greg Abbott from cutting the razor wire or from using our laws to deport people and be able to protect our communities. So, I'm tired of all the games. And, like in Washington, that's what we're getting out of the Senate, right? They want to go try to cut a deal to get more money for Ukraine. We're not interested in that. We want to do our job to force the Biden administration to the table. So to answer your question, yes, the people of Texas are telling me very bluntly, make sure that Biden understands he's either going to shut down the border or he's going to have to choose to shut down the government. But it'll be on him. It's our job in Congress to use the power of the purse to stop it. And if we won't do that, we're just going to get more of the same, which means another 750,000 encounters over the next 3 months like we got over the first 3 months of this calendar year. So it's time to stop it. It's time to end it. By the way, last point. This should have been ended in 2018 and 19 when we had a Republican in the White House and a Republican control of the House and the Senate. We didn't, meaning I wasn't there, but Republicans didn't. And that's one of the reasons why I support Governor DeSantis. I want to get laws enacted that will prevent someone like Biden from doing this in the future.
I'll come back to Governor DeSantis and your presence in Iowa today in just one moment. First of all, you have your facts straight. Yes, Sherman, Texas, born and raised.
Yeah.
And I can hear the conviction in your voice on this issue, and I know that you're reflecting the conviction of your constituents. It's interesting. The other side is showing a lot of conviction. We have to admit, the Biden administration is dedicated to ensuring that border stays open, including, as you point out, suing the state of Texas. So, I don't know what you take away from that might be, but there is both sides very seemingly dedicated to their positions on the southern border.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, historically, Democrats have been more committed to their position, destroying the sovereignty and security of the United States and remaking America. We now have 50 million, that's 50 million people in this country who are foreign born. OK, they have about 20 million kids. This is the highest percentage we've ever had in the history of our country. They are doing that at a time where we don't teach our kids about the Constitution or Western civilization or to believe in that America is great. So they're doing this purposely, wide open borders. They believe in things like the New World Order and the United Nations making decisions for us. So that's purposeful. I just want Republicans to meet that with at least as much passion and resistance as Democrats use to destroy our country. And that's the question for Republicans and the Speaker of the House right now. Are we going to meet the moment as Republicans and use the power of the purse to stop this assault on our freedom, our security, and well-being while we empower cartels, empower China, endanger Texans? Let's stop that right now. We can use the power of the purse. Pass a bill that will fund troops, pass a bill that will fund Border Patrol, send it to the president and say, see you in November.
I just want to say that little nugget of your answer right there. 50 million. We don't teach our own children about the United States Constitution, our form of government, or American values, much less 50 million illegal immigrants who know. It's not about whether or not they're good people or bad people. It's about whether or not they understand or are dedicated to those American values. You're changing the country, period, either on purpose or by accident. You're changing the country. I don't want to rob you of this time as well. I know, as I mentioned, you're in Iowa. I see the sign behind you for Governor DeSantis. It's a big week. You're headed towards the caucuses this week. What are you expecting in Iowa?
Well, look, man, there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement on the ground for Governor Ron DeSantis. He's a guy who has done it. He has delivered for the people of Florida. And I think that we in this country need someone who will deliver for us in the White House. And I want someone who my 14-year-old son can look up to, can emulate. This is a guy who wore the uniform in the Navy. This is a guy who's a winner. He won by 1.5 million votes in Florida. He won 62% of Hispanic voters, 50% of single female voters. He has delivered time and time again. And importantly, unlike former President Trump, with all due respect, who I supported and who I'll support if he's the nominee, this guy's actually stood up to fight to secure the border. In 2018, he was with the Freedom Caucus, making sure that we should pass good legislation when President Trump was saddling up with Paul Ryan to pass an amnesty first bill instead of a bill that would actually secure the border. And for you friends out there and people who support President Trump, God bless you, Google it. Go look at the facts. We didn't get the wall built. We didn't get Mexico to pay for it. We didn't pass the laws necessary to secure the border. And the former president then gives Anthony Fauci a medal, a commendation as he's leaving the job. And meanwhile, he destroyed our country, $8 trillion in debt, shut down our economy. Governor DeSantis was fighting to keep it open in Florida. That's the kind of leadership I think we need. And the people in Iowa recognize that. While Nikki Haley goes to New Hampshire and says New Hampshire needs to correct Iowans, people in Iowa get to make a decision here to set the stage for Americans.
Well, Congressman, I'll tell you what, I would love to have a deeper conversation with you as we approach the Iowa caucuses, both on the substantive issues facing our country and the political issues facing first the state of Iowa. Hopefully you and I can get together in the coming week and go over some of these issues in more depth.
Let's do it. I loved being a prosecutor in Sherman, Texas. It's a great part of the country, so let's visit.
Were you a federal prosecutor up there?
Yeah, no, that was where my first job as a prosecutor. I was up there, and I was living in McKinney, bouncing up and down 75.
Yeah, right in front of Judge Brown for all those years. All right, Congressman, great to see you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.